Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm LIFTMOR. I'm a physical therapist and a specialist in osteoporosis and bone health exercise. And today we are talking about calcium and your bones. We're going to cover so much important information about what to take, what's the best type, how much do you need, what are the side effects. So please watch all the way to the end so you don't miss one important answer to these questions. And I am thrilled to be joined by the calcium queens, the founders of Scene Nutrition, to help answer these really important questions. Ladies, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having us, Lisa. We're so excited to be back on and address some of these common questions.
All right. Without further ado, let me introduce you guys. So Scene Nutrition is a food startup that formulated the first calcium chew made from only real foods for better bone health. Adrienne Bitar, PhD, is a co-founder and co-CEO and a lecturer in food studies at Cornell University. And Dr. Jennifer Hahn, PharmD, co-founder and co-CEO, is a clinical pharmacist who, after being diagnosed with premenopausal osteoporosis in 2020, set out to revolutionize the calcium supplement industry by using real food to support stronger bones. That's powerful. I love it. So really, calcium is something you know a lot about, right?
Yeah. Yes, we have devoted our lives to calcium and bone health.
Right. And that's why I love having you guys here is your base of knowledge and understanding the research is so helpful for people that are trying to support their bone health to really understand what are the right action steps to take. So one of the first things I want to talk about is kind of a concerning thing I see in some of the bone health circles and conversations about these fringe nutrients like maybe strontium and boron with a really casual deference to calcium as just get it from food. Why is this potentially harmful and misleading advice?
Yeah, we have a lot of thoughts here because I think the notion that we should be focusing on these fringe nutrients, I like the way that you said it, like strontium and boron and even vitamin K, misses the mark because it misses the point that calcium is essential and we need enough calcium for any of those accessory nutrients to work. So if we don't have enough vitamin D, then we're not going to absorb calcium enough. If we don't have enough magnesium, then we're not activating our vitamin D well enough to absorb that calcium. So all of this is because calcium is the most important piece. 99% of our skeleton contains calcium. And so if we do not have enough calcium or consume enough in our diet, whether that be from food or from supplements, then we're missing the mark. And I think when people say, just get it from food, we 100% agree calcium should be consumed from food. But the reality is that 60% of Americans aren't consuming enough in their diet. So we need to find a solution where we make it easier to consume enough from your food, which is why we developed the calcium chew, which is only made from real food ingredients so that you can actually meet your target goals for calcium.
I love it. I love it. All right. So that is a great explanation of saying if you're just focusing on these fringe items on the outside, you're missing the whole point of why those things might even be beneficial in the first place, if at all. Without the calcium piece, that we're not really hitting the target.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So why do women need calcium, and what concerns would we have if our calcium intake is too low?
So calcium is important for a number of reasons, right? We're talking about calcium in bone. So we know that calcium is a critical mineral for bone health. It provides both the strength and the rigidity for bones, but calcium is also critical for other life-saving functions like cardiac function, nerve transmission, blood clotting. Calcium is a critical nutrient for all of these processes. So it's not only important for bones, but it's important for your body to function. And so that's why we need to obtain enough from our diet. If you don't obtain enough from your diet, what your body is going to do is signal to your bones like, hey, your blood calcium is low. Take some from the biggest reserve that you have in your body, which is your skeleton. And it's going to take that calcium from your bones to provide it to your heart, to your nerves, everything else that's a little bit more important on the hierarchy of health, right? Like you need your heart to function in order to live. And so it's going to pull from that bank from our bones.
So if we don't have enough intake in our diet, our body is brilliant in that it will adapt and take it from a reserve, a reservoir, which is our bones, and use it because it's necessary for critical function.
Yes.
Now, here's what people tell me all the time. They say, I had my blood tested and my calcium was normal. How is this not a way to really say that you're getting enough in your diet?
Yeah, we have to be really cautious in how we're interpreting specifically your blood calcium levels that you're going to get in your metabolic panel. Having a normal calcium level in your blood or your serum test just indicates that your body is regulating that calcium appropriately. It's taking enough from your bones if it's low in your blood, and it's transmitting that calcium where it's needed, to the heart, like I said, or to your bones, because calcium is very tightly regulated by hormones. And so having a normal calcium blood level is a good thing. It tells you that your body is functioning appropriately in regulating calcium, but it does not tell you that you're consuming enough from your diet. Because again, your body's working to keep your calcium levels within a very fine range in your blood, but it doesn't indicate that you have like 80% in your bones. It just indicates that your body's regulating calcium appropriately.
I think this is a critical point for people to understand. Their lab value in calcium may be normal, but that could also mean that their body is adapting and taking that calcium from their bones if they're not getting enough in their nutrition.
Exactly. And that's very different from vitamin D. So this is where it's confusing, because we get a vitamin D panel, and then you could see for that specific test, if your vitamin D levels are low, then yes, you should be consuming and supplementing enough to get it to a certain range. That's how you should be interpreting vitamin D levels, but that's not how you should be interpreting calcium. So it's really different.
They are completely different. Excellent. I think that was really important. Thank you for explaining that.
Yes.
What's the difference between synthetic and supplemental calcium and dietary calcium? How is that different into our body and how we receive it and how it's utilized?
They're fundamentally different. And I think this is where we get this adage or this common recommendation to get your calcium from food. Because we all know, and the major medical organizations agree, that calcium from food is superior. So that calcium from food is also known as dietary calcium. And when you find calcium in its food source, it's not just calcium in silo. It's not just a capsule of calcium. It's calcium in all the other minerals, the cofactors, the macronutrients even that come along with that calcium. And that helps the calcium absorb to where it's and go and be directed to where it's needed the most, which is your bones. Supplemental or synthetic calcium, you can think of your calcium carbonate, your calcium citrate that you can find in capsules or chews or gummies, or even in their industrial applications. Calcium carbonate is used in drywall and sheetrock. And in other industrial applications. It's one of the reasons why it's a very affordable ingredient. It's just calcium in silo. It's calcium carbonate as it's found in rock or other forms of calciums that are made synthetically in a lab. And with that isolation, you lose all the other micro and macronutrients that helps dietary calcium absorb into your bone. So for example, our calcium chew uses milk minerals or dairy calcium. But what that is a whole complex of minerals that's not just calcium. It's calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, zinc, copper, iron, that helps that calcium absorb into your bones. So I would say that synthetic or supplemental calcium and dietary or calcium from food are fundamentally different. And that distinction should be paid close attention to.
I love that description. I think of it oftentimes when we hear music from an orchestra, and food is in concert with this synergistic effect of all the ingredients or all the different instruments in the orchestra, and taking out just the flutes and expecting to hear the same sound is just not the same thing.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah. So does supplemental calcium have gastrointestinal effects? And if so, how often does this occur?
Yes, yeah. So let's take, for example, the most common synthetic calcium form, and that's calcium carbonate. So this is the most common synthetic calcium that you'll find if you go to any retail pharmacy or if you go online. That's the form that you'll find. And that's the form that has the highest risk of these gastrointestinal side effects: bloating, constipation, nausea, sometimes vomiting. All of these gastrointestinal side effects occur most commonly with calcium carbonate, and the rate of the side effect is about 20%. So it's pretty significant. A lot of the viewers probably have experienced this. I certainly have. When I was diagnosed, I took calcium carbonate and it upset my stomach. And so it begs the reason of why do we still take calcium carbonate when we know that it causes these side effects, when there should be better options. And again, that's one of the main reasons why we created our calcium chew, because we want women to enjoy eating their calcium without having to fight through bloating and constipation on a daily basis.
I love it. So the calcium chew you created does not cause these same gastrointestinal effects.
Yeah. So
why is that?
Yeah, let me talk about the mechanism a little bit. So I am a clinical pharmacist, so I'm not going to go too much into the detail, but it is important to know a little bit about the chemistry. So when you're taking calcium carbonate, so this is the synthetic calcium, it reacts to the acid in your stomach, and it makes a byproduct called carbon dioxide. So that carbon dioxide is kind of sitting around in your gut. That's what's causing the bloating. That can actually impair your gut motility, so slow down your motility and cause constipation. That's the mechanism behind the bloating and the constipation. You're not going to find that with dietary calcium like the milk minerals in our calcium chew, because our calcium is not bound to a carbonate salt that creates that carbon dioxide. The calcium that's found in our milk minerals is just free soluble calcium. It's calcium that's already independent from a salt so that your body can use it most appropriately.
I like that. So the normal chemical breakdown of the stomach acid and calcium carbonate creates this carbon dioxide gas, pressure, bloating, constipation, whereas the milk minerals are naturally dissolvable and don't create this gas at all.
Yes, exactly.
Brilliant. So how much calcium do we need? How much in a day? What does a woman over age 50 need?
Yeah, a woman 50 plus the recommended daily amount is 1,200 milligrams of calcium a day. So let's kind of put it in a frame of reference. 1,200 milligrams is quite a hefty amount of calcium, right? So one glass of milk has maybe 300 milligrams of dietary calcium. So you're going to need to drink a lot of milk in order to get to that amount. So 1,200, I just want to put it in a frame of reference because people think, oh, I probably eat enough. I eat enough cheese. I eat enough yogurt. But if you actually calculate it out, it's pretty surprising. It's hard to meet that amount.
Yeah, I was surprised too. Yes.
Yeah.
So 1,200, how much can we absorb at one time?
The best rate so we designed our chew very carefully, thinking through that question to be at 500 milligrams, because the peak rate of absorption occurs at 500 milligrams of calcium. So it doesn't mean if you eat far more calcium than that, you won't absorb another milligram, but the rate in which the peak absorption occurs is highest at 500 milligrams. And so that's why some physicians will say 500 milligrams is enough. And it's hard to reconcile that with sometimes you see supplements that far exceed that dose, but 500 milligrams is the sweet spot.
Okay. And I think that's really important because it's not always a more is better at one time. Like if we're really optimizing our nutrition, spreading things out, or just recognizing that at one meal, I'm going to be a little short. So this is the perfect place for me to have a chew and to make sure I'm filling any gaps that might be having in that for my day. And, that's going to vary from day to day, right? If we're paying attention to what we're getting.
Yeah. And some people, they have a really heavy calcium rich breakfast. Like I usually try to really focus on getting a lot of calcium from my food during breakfast. And so then I'll have a chew in between breakfast and lunch so I can keeping in mind, okay, maximum absorption, how can I spread it out throughout the day so I'm getting the most from what I eat?
Love it. Okay, great. I would love to know, I mean, I think your story is really remarkable. Talk about the moment when you're going through your own osteoporosis journey, you know, when you're a professor in food studies, where you're talking about what you're seeing available is not meeting the needs, and what prompted you to start your company, and why did you name it Seen?
Yeah, those are good questions.
Those are, yeah, we've done a lot of reflection recently. And it's really a remarkable process because we were just professionals going about our professional career. Jenny as a practicing clinical pharmacist, I was teaching food studies here at Cornell. And we saw how we were friends first, and we saw how prevalent bone health concerns were. I mean, Jenny, with your own diagnosis, and then I watched my mom, she's 78 now, but she was diagnosed at 47, struggle with her own calcium supplementation. And it's like, this isn't just a moment in your life stage. Like, this is years upon years upon years where you need to be cautious and considerate of your diet, your bone health exercise program. Like, this is a lifelong commitment. And to think that we knew of a better option, but for some reason the market just wasn't there to satisfy it. It was like, well, women can just gag down these horse pills or suffer through these like chalky tablets. It's like, but why? Like, why are we sitting here in 2025? We've known that like osteoporosis has been an issue severely impacting women's health for decades and decades and decades. We've known that calcium supplementation is critical day in and day out for decades of your life. Yet still, we just expect women to be uncomfortable. Like, okay, this is just a women's issue. This is just some little, some older ladies, taking their pills. Like, that's just not the attitude that we brought to this project. And when we created a company name, it was founded on the idea that like we want to help people feel seen, right? Like, this is a problem and we want to recognize it and give it the seriousness with which it deserves attention.
I love that. I love that. So really seeing that what was out there really wasn't meeting the needs. And I'd be willing to bet, given the side effects that were happening, many people weren't even taking it, right?
Yeah.
They're either taking it and having side effects, or just saying, this isn't worth it to me, and not taking it at all. And so really under treating this bone health, which I 100% agree, this is a lifelong process. This is a program that I do for the rest of my life when I talk about my bone health, exercise, and nutrition, because I want to age well through the lifespan. Talk about what you put into formulating your chew and sourcing the ingredients, the milk minerals, all of that stuff. Tell us about what it is that makes it so special.
So it took us a long time. That's the short answer. But we spent about 18 months. We're sitting here in upstate New York, which is a dairying region. And we are enormously grateful for the resources we've had here with the Cornell Center of Excellence for Food and Agriculture. We are members. We were parts of various incubators. And we recognized that we wanted to source calcium from food. Like, first and foremost, no compromises. It must be from food. We know from decades upon decades upon decades of historical research conducted, some right here on our campus, that milk calcium has a very high rate of bioavailability. We know that inside and out. So we think, well, we want to make sure that we can get all the calcium and other minerals from milk without the fat, without 99% of the lactose, without even most of the proteins that can be bothersome to some people, without the inconvenience of drinking nearly 2 glasses of milk without the calories. And so it took over a year, but we were happy with our final formulations. We have a patent on it. And it's really the first, it's not really, it is the first dietary calcium supplement on the market. And that is something we are proud of.
Yeah, you should be proud of it. It's really, I love that, just from the beginning of this conversation where we talk about how different it is to receive this nutrition from food, and that whole entourage symphony that we get in the beneficial ingredients, and how different that is from synthetic supplements. This is really a remarkable product, and I love your devotion to keeping this really food-based. Is the milk hormone-free? Can you talk a little bit about the milk where you source your product?
Yeah. Our milk is hormone free. Well, it's non-GMO and RBST free.
Mhm.
So the where we source our milk is from cows that are raised in the Midwest and upstate New York here. There's
Mhm.
a cooperative of 30 dairy farms in this beautiful region that we source some of our ingredients from. And we, it was important for us to make sure that these cows were raised ethically and sustainably. And
Okay.
all of the milk is part of this organization called Farmers Assuring Responsible Management Farm.
Mhm.
And there's rules and regulations that are in place in order to ensure that that milk and those cows were raised ethically and sustainably. And so we feel comfortable using those where none of the cows were harmed in the process of taking the milk. And so that's one thing that we take a lot of pride in is our ingredients, because we are not founders where we outsourced to a third-party team. Hey, we want a food-based chew. Can you make it for us? No, we actually had conversations with each of our ingredient suppliers. We know the ins and outs of where this ingredient is coming from so that we can speak to it confidently with our customers. Because, I was treating patients clinically before jumping into scene full time. And that's something that I would do as a practitioner, review all the evidence and make sure that the recommendations I was making were evidence-based. So that same principle applies to scene nutrition.
I love it. I love it. I appreciate, you're out there meeting the farmers, meeting the workers, really making this a community thing. One of these days, I would like to meet the cows myself because I'm a fan of cows. I think they're pretty adorable.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. Lactose-free, gluten-free?
Yes, so it is entirely gluten-free. We even have that listed on our label, as you can see behind us, and then it's lactose safe. So because it's a natural food product, we couldn't eliminate every single milligram of lactose from the product, but it is far exceeds the lactose safe threshold. So it's about 1/4 of a gram of lactose in it. And most people, even if they're lactose intolerant, like Jenny, not to call you out, but can have about 12 grams in a sitting, and you never have any trouble with it.
No.
So, and we have a lot of customers that are lactose intolerant. That's actually one of the great things, is that you can get all the calcium from milk, even if you're lactose intolerant.
Yeah. I think that's pretty great too. So there's 400 units of vitamin D in each chew. Do people need to consider supplementing beyond that? What would you generally recommend when you look at the ingredients you've placed in it and the vitamin D that's already there?
Yeah, so that's another question we get pretty frequently. And we have the right amount of vitamin D to assist with that calcium absorption from each chew. So that's where the 400 IUs are coming from. But if you require separate vitamin D supplementation, say, like going back to the first question, you did a vitamin D test and it was low, it was below 20, and you need a supplement and raise that up, then yes, you should be supplementing vitamin D separately.
So the chew has the right amount for vitamin D to do what we want it to do with helping the absorption of calcium, but people should look at individual testing and work with their provider to see if they need additional vitamin D beyond that.
Yes.
Great. What about vitamin K2? A lot of people in the group talk about, do I need vitamin K2 with my calcium? What do you say?
Yeah, so this is another thing where it's pretty individualized. We can't make a blanket statement for everyone, and that's why vitamin K2 is not in our calcium chew right now. There's certain populations where you have to be a little bit more cautious. For example, are you on blood thinners? Do you have arrhythmias? In those situations, we cannot safely recommend, yes, add K2 without a doubt. But we do know, and that there is compelling evidence that vitamin K2 can help direct the calcium from your gut to your blood, to your bone. And so for those that don't have those conditions, who are not on blood thinners and don't consume enough vitamin K2 in your diet, then yes, you can supplement it in addition to our calcium chew. And I say, probably a lot of us aren't consuming enough vitamin K2 in our diet because it's mainly present in fermented foods, and we just don't eat a lot of that in our Western diet. like natto is a one specific food that has a lot of vitamin K2. It's a cuisine in Japan. But if you're not consuming a lot of fermented foods, then you're probably not eating a lot of vitamin K2.
Okay, really important consideration there. But look at your dietary intake and then figure it out and work with your doctor, nutritionist, pharmacist to see if supplementing may assist there. Okay. What are customers saying? What's the feedback you're getting so far?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, that's, I think, a real joy. I mean, it is a real joy in my day.
It's the highlight of our day. Every time we get a review. So if you're a customer of ours, please leave us a review because it makes our day, just reading it and hearing how women have finally found something that they enjoy eating each day. It's not something that they were dreading or, having to have side effects with. They actually enjoy eating our calcium chew. They say it replaces their dessert. That's wonderful. They say that it's a little afternoon treat with their coffee. And people are just enjoying it, and it's very, very heartwarming.
Yeah, I mean, there's a convenience to it that I really appreciate as a busy professional. The convenience, the portability. I hate taking pills, so I like that it's not a pill. It's a soft, chewy, nutty, satisfying flavor. I mean, it's very palatable and pleasant. It feels like a treat. It's not chocolatey or artificial. So you don't feel like you're taking anything like medical or medicine. It just does feel like a treat, but it's satisfying because you know what it is, right?
Exactly.
But the portability and convenience, half a chew, a whole chew, the flexibility of it, to me, it's just really ideal. And then I have no excuses, right?
Yeah, us too. Yeah, when we're traveling, it's hard to find calcium-rich foods when you're on the road or when you're with family or friends, like on a trip. But if you just stick this in your little purse, then you have a quick source of dietary calcium.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I agree. So based on feedback and information you're getting from customers, is there anything new on the horizon at Scene Nutrition?
Well, as I said in an earlier answer, it takes us a long time to feel very confident, to do all the requisite testing. We are a food product, which so means we're tightly regulated by FDA. Unlike the dietary supplements, which is wild, it's far easier and simpler to bring a dietary supplement to market than a food product. So yes, that's the long answer. The short answer is yes, we definitely have other things on the horizon and other products in the pipeline, but we are moving slowly because we want to be 100% sure that these are the appropriate products with all the requisite testing and official approvals.
Oh, I can't wait. That's such a tease. I want to know more.
I can't say much there, but there will be more on the horizon within the next year. And guess what? Everyone in your group, Dr. Lisa Moore's group, it would be the first to know.
Yes, for sure.
Oh. Fantastic. All right. We'll have to make sure that we do a debut share for information about that. I love it. All right. So where do you see the conversation about women's bone health changing over the next decade? What is ahead for us? What can we look forward to?
There is so much to look forward to. And I think one privilege that we have sitting here in 2025 is seeing how the conversation's changing. Like we're seeing how menopause has become the bread and butter of women's health conversations. And I also see glimpses of how bone health is becoming just the standard fare and thinking about women's health throughout, just like you said, Lisa, throughout the lifespan. This is where I think prevention is going to start entering into the conversation earlier and earlier. And we do have some customers that are thinking ahead 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Like, how am I going to age with strength? How am I going to ensure that I'm not going to end up frail, that I'm not going to fall? And what can I do to prevent that now in my 20s and my 30s and my 40s? If I were to choose one word about how I see the bone health conversation going, I would say prevention.
I love that. Actually, I think that is that just brings so much hope to me to think about how we can help affect people at a younger age. It's still possibly when we're building peak bone mass in our early 20s, to be able to know that they have the right information to affect the trajectory, so we can change the statistics that we are sadly aware of now, right? 1 in 2 women over the age of 50 will have an osteoporotic fracture. We can change those numbers if we do what you said and get to the prevention side of things early for people. I love that. So this has been fantastic. I've learned a lot about calcium, our bones, why it's important, what type really matters, the benefits of the Scene Calcium Chew. It is, it's the only product that I take it myself, and I share it with my people in my group number because I just think it's really that good. But there's other supplements. There's a lot of supplements on the market. There's people are targeted in the bone health industry. It is very confusing and very conflicting. And you guys are great at looking into the research and literature. Would you be willing to come back and have another conversation where we take a deep dive about supplements and our bones?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yes.
Great.
All right. I love it. I think that will be incredibly meaningful and impactful. People want to know this information, and you really break it down in a way that's easy to understand, very factual and applicable. So I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Let's wrap up and say and I'd love this from each of you if you're willing. What is one myth you'd like to bust when it comes to nutrition and bone health?
Yeah, mine is a little bit connected to your previous question, Lisa. I think that the myth that osteoporosis is a definitive diagnosis, that it's the end of something, is a myth that I really, really want to bust, just personally and also professionally. Because personally, when I received that osteoporosis diagnosis, yes, I actually thought it was the end. I'm like, can I have more children? How am I going to age in 20 years? I was 30 years old. So I in the peak of my life, right? But as I started to shift and think and really study bone health more, I realized that an osteoporosis diagnosis is actually just the beginning. It's the start of my bone health journey. And that's the mindset that I've taken over the last 4 or 5 years now. And I've improved my bone density. I actually feel the strongest that I've ever felt in my life because I started to do strength training and focus on my nutrition. I wouldn't have done those things if I wasn't dialed into osteoporosis and bone health. And so I think that's a myth. Osteoporosis is actually just an invitation to now focus on your bones.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for that. Adrienne?
It'd be hard to, I totally agree about just thinking about it sooner. I think more broadly about nutrition and bone health, I think there's a concern, and I've seen this track out over like diet culture and so-called like clean eating, that if you have like a healthy, balanced diet, everything else should fall in line. And I wish that were true. But that is unfortunately not true for things like calcium, especially, or folic acid. I mean, other nutritional concerns also are part of that category. But just because you have a healthy, balanced diet does not mean that you're consuming enough calcium or you're eating for your bones. In fact, we find that people only consume about 800 milligrams of calcium from their diet alone. And that's probably an overestimate, where really if you're over the age of, if you're in your 50s or older, you'll need about 1,200. So I think this overall category of like healthy glosses over a lot of nuance that we need to bring to our attention to our diet.
I love that. And I think what both of you said can put this in this summary. So Dr. Han, you just really talked about how you brought up that awareness, how your diagnosis was a calling to take action and take control, and you were able to change your future. And then what you're saying, Adrienne, is really not to put things in a silo as these individual compartments of being enough, but it's this comprehensive approach. Like you said, you did, working on the right strength exercise, making sure you're getting your calcium, getting the right nutrients, getting enough sleep, managing so it's this comprehensive approach to managing not just our bone health, but our health, right?
Yes.
Yes.
It all ties together. Yeah. Lisa, you're so good at summarizing things.
Oh, you gave me all the material to do it. It's really great. But that is, and I really do appreciate, and I want people to know that, because everybody wants the one thing. They want the one thing, and it is the entourage. It's still the symphony. We have to be with the music in the symphony. We want the whole band at the party. And that's how we continue to live these active, engaged lives, enjoying what we want to do with the people we love, sharing that with.
Yes, beautifully
Well
said.
said.
Thank you so much for this information. I appreciate your time and your expertise, and I look forward to our next conversation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.